there's a short life in
Why do you think that is? What the creative side is?
Well, because losing out money, you got to take. You're going through so much to try and deal with life. And card.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man. A man don't take it. A man gives it. So when you give up that man card, you don't get that back.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
No, I'm saying what I'm saying.
The glitz, the glamour, the endless red carpets, Hollywood loves to sell itself as a dream factory, a place where anything is possible if you've got enough ambition and a sprinkle of luck. But what if beneath all that shimmer, there's a darker truth? A machine that grinds away at its brightest stars, demanding something far more personal than talent or hard work. That's the storm brewing around Terrence Howard and Katt Williams, two men who've been on the inside, seen the gears turning, and now seem determined to pull back the curtain. And let's not mince words here. What they're alleging isn't just about tough bosses or occasional bad behavior. No, they're pointing to an orchestrated system in which power, control, and humiliation are wielded like weapons, all while the public is fed a steady diet of feel-good success stories.
You are literally, it's an unhealthy space. And so eventually you're going to go too far, Who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what Heath had to do in order to get to where he was at? There's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head, But when you lose your man card.
The text discusses Terrence Howard's complex relationship with Hollywood and his candid revelations about the industry. Known for his intense and charismatic performances in projects like Hustle and Flow and Empire, Howard has opened up about the less glamorous side of his career. He described Hollywood as a place where success often comes at a significant personal cost, referring to this in symbolic terms as giving up one's man card, a metaphor for dignity, agency, and masculinity. According to Howard, many stars have been forced to compromise their principles to maintain relevance.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the consequences when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me.
In recounting his experiences, Howard shared specific stories that painted a troubling picture of the industry. One such incident involved Sean Diddy Combs, whom Howard claimed invited him to what appeared to be a professional meeting. Initially framed as an opportunity to collaborate or mentor, the encounter, as described by Howard, quickly took an unsettling turn. There was no script or material, and the situation seemed less about work and more about testing boundaries. Howard recalled his assistant directly pointing out that the meeting was not about acting, prompting him to cut ties. Reflecting on the experience, Howard expressed his realization that these scenarios are part of a broader pattern in Hollywood, where opportunities often come with hidden costs, including the loss of one's integrity.
Look at Diddy, for instance. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at him. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at. He has videos. He has videos of the parties. Now, what I've heard, which I don't know how much of it is in mainstream media, I don't really follow the story that much, but what I've heard from friends that are attorneys, friends of mine that have represented me before, agents and so on, is there's a bidding war going on.
Howard is not alone in his criticisms of the industry. Comedian Katt Williams, who has long been outspoken about Hollywood's darker side, has echoed similar concerns. Williams, known for his sharp humor and unfiltered commentary, has frequently alluded to the questionable practices at Hollywood parties, describing them as spaces designed to compromise an individual's self-respect. He argued that these environments test how much someone is willing to sacrifice, with those who refuse often finding themselves excluded from further opportunities.
All lies will be exposed, that's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
Both Howard and Williams have suggested that this pattern reflects a calculated effort to control who succeeds in the industry. One recurring issue they highlighted is the trope of black male actors being pressured to wear dresses in films or sketches. While some defend this as comedic performance, critics like Howard and Williams view it as a deliberate attempt to diminish and control black men in entertainment. Williams questioned why this trend disproportionately targets black actors, framing it as a systemic issue that goes beyond humor. Howard agreed, suggesting that these practices are about asserting control and reducing individuals to make them more manageable. Together, their accounts point to broader systemic problems within Hollywood, challenging the industry's portrayal as a purely aspirational space and exposing the personal and professional costs that success can demand.
Did you ever spend time with the guy? Did you ever meet Diddy?
I've met him before, yeah.
How was he?
Very nice guy, very smart, super business. He's very successful.
Of course, not everyone sees it this way. Critics of Howard and Williams have been quick to label them as bitter, out of touch, or even paranoid. But for every skeptic, there's a growing number of fans and fellow actors who are starting to connect the dots. Social media has been ablaze with discussions about the man card theory, with some users pointing out other instances of Hollywood demanding compromises from its stars. It's not just the black men, one commenter wrote, it's anyone who doesn't fit their mold. They want conformity, plain and simple. And yet, the blackmail experience in Hollywood does seem to carry its own unique set of challenges. Howard has gone as far as to say that strong, unapologetic black men are often seen as a threat, both on and off screen. They let white men be powerful and complex, he said. But when it's us, they want to soften the edges, make us less intimidating. It's a sentiment that's been echoed by other actors over the years, from Dave to John Boyega, both of whom have spoken out about the limitations placed on black creatives in the industry. So where does this leave us? Are Howard and Williams simply airing their grievances, or are they pulling back the veil on an industry that thrives on exploitation? The truth, as always, is likely somewhere in between. What's clear, though, is that their voices are resonating in a way that can't be ignored. And with rumors swirling about a possible podcast where they might delve even deeper into these allegations, it feels like we're only scratching the surface of this story. Because if there's one thing Hollywood has proven time and time again, it's that the real drama happens behind the scenes.
I'll tell you, I don't know how much, I don't like to say things that I know unless I see it. That there's a little difference, but was it discussed? Was there descriptions from people I know that were at those? Yes, but here's another thing. So how many of these big entertainment parties and over the years and everything with as successful as you are, have you been around? Does anyone ever come up to you at a certain hour and say, okay, it's time to go? At those parties, they did.
And just when you think it couldn't get darker, the story plunges even deeper into Hollywood's murky underworld. If Terrence Howard and Katt Williams' revelations about manipulation and control shook the room, the whispers surrounding the industry's most exclusive gatherings, those infamous mansion parties, might just blow the lid off entirely. These aren't your average cocktail soirees or harmless networking events. No, these are the stuff of urban legends, whispered about in hushed tones by insiders and former attendees too spooked to go on the record. But for those brave enough to pull back the curtain, the accounts are nothing short of chilling. What's most striking is how these parties operate as a kind of unspoken initiation rite. The idea, as insiders tell it, is to test the limits of how far someone is willing to go for a seat at Hollywood's top table. It's not just about socializing with the A-listers or rubbing elbows with the power players. It's about compliance, submission, and, according to Howard and Williams, for years these gatherings have been cloaked in a veneer of opulence, multi-million-dollar properties, and guest lists stacked with recognizable faces. But step off the main floor and into the shadowy side rooms, and you're in a world far removed from the glamour of the red carpet.
People I don't think realized was he had cameras all over the place, unbeknownst to them. And now he has all that footage, supposedly. This is what I'm told. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if, you're a huge, iconic, TV star or movie star, and you're in some very, very...
Take, for instance, the unnerving accounts of room checks. Multiple sources have described how these parties are compartmentalized, with certain areas restricted to only a select few. It's in these rooms, guarded by security and shrouded in secrecy, where the line between the professional and the personal becomes unrecognizably blurred. Howard's own assistant reportedly tipped him off to what was happening behind closed doors, warning him to steer clear before things got out of hand. And if you're wondering why someone like Terrence Howard, a man with an already successful career, would even be invited to such a gathering, the answer seems to be simple. No one is above the system. It doesn't matter how many awards you've won or how many box office hits you've starred in. Everyone at some point has to prove their loyalty or their silence.
I'm not sure. I don't buy for a minute that he's going to prison without getting out of here somewhere and stashing $2 billion or whatever. I think he has that kind of power, meaning Sean himself. But remember, it goes a lot deeper than that.
Katt Williams has been even more explicit in describing what he's heard and seen. He's called these events a litmus test for Hollywood hopefuls, a way to gauge not just talent, but pliability. And while he's been careful not to name too many names, the stories he's shared paint a vivid picture of an industry that thrives on pushing boundaries. One particularly haunting anecdote involves a well-known music executive whose parties were notorious for their game. Guests were allegedly encouraged or coerced into participating in activities that left them vulnerable, sometimes physically compromised, always emotionally rattled. The goal, according to Williams, wasn't just entertainment but leverage. Once you've crossed a line, once you've done something you never thought you'd do, you're far less likely to speak out or step out of line. And let's not forget the cameras. Multiple sources, including Williams, have hinted at the presence of hidden recording devices at these events, strategically placed to capture every compromising moment. The footage, they claim, isn't just a keepsake for the hosts, it's a weapon. In an industry already rife with power imbalances, the existence of such tapes adds an entirely new layer of control. Imagine knowing that the most mortifying moment of your life is sitting on someone's hard drive, ready to be leaked if you ever decide to rock the boat. That's not just manipulation. That's psychological warfare.
Well, but the truth is, in 20 years, I never been on a commercial audition in my life. Like, I never let my tour get sponsored when I was broke.
But here's where it gets even more twisted. These parties aren't just about individual compliance. They're about perpetuating a system. By drawing people into these scenarios and ensuring their silence through fear or blackmail, the gatekeepers of Hollywood maintain their grip on the industry. It's a self-sustaining cycle. New faces are brought in, tested, and either broken or indoctrinated. Those who refuse to play along, like Howard and Williams, find themselves on the outside looking in, their careers stalling or derailing altogether. And while some might dismiss their accounts as the ramblings of disgruntled has-beens, the consistency of their stories and the courage it takes to tell them suggests otherwise. It's also worth noting that these revelations aren't entirely new. For years, there have been rumors of powerful figures using their influence to exploit those beneath them. The difference now is the level of detail and the willingness of people like Howard and Williams to go on the record. Their accounts have sparked a wave of speculation, with fans and insiders alike combing through old interviews and public appearances for clues. Why did so-and-so suddenly step away from the spotlight? Why did this actor, at the peak of their career, disappear without explanation? The answers, it seems, might lie in the shadows of these very parties. And then, there's the fallout. Since Howard's interview and Williams' renewed outspokenness, social media has been ablaze with support, skepticism, and everything in between. Some users have called for a full-scale investigation into the claims, while others have taken a more cynical view, accusing Howard and Williams of chasing clout. But the most intriguing reactions have come from within the industry itself. A handful of actors, producers, and even former assistants have started to speak out, corroborating parts of the story or sharing their own experience. It's a slow trickle for now, but it's enough to suggest that this isn't just the ranting of a few disgruntled stars. This is a systemic issue, one that's been festering beneath Hollywood's polished surface for decades.
I can't win over there because I don't play. I don't participate. Like, you can't buy me, not because I'm not for sale. You can't buy me because I'm not in the store. It's different.
What's even more unsettling is how some of these gatherings seem to function on a level that surpasses basic manipulation or leverage. According to one former assistant who spoke anonymously, these events are structured with layers, almost like an unspoken hierarchy. At the surface, there's the main party, where everyone is impeccably dressed and laughing as though it's all lighthearted fun. But beyond that, there are private areas where the atmosphere shifts entirely. In these rooms, the assistant described, the attendees are no longer there to mingle or network. Instead, certain individuals are present to observe, to take notes, and to ensure everything plays out as intended. This setup strongly suggests an organized effort to enforce compliance, with specific attendees acting as enforcers or even recruiters for what happens next. For those who gain access to these inner circles, the price of admission is rarely tangible, yet it carries a weighty, unspoken cost, one meant to bind them to the system forever.
That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid, shoot.
Adding to the tension is the steady flow of whispers surrounding those who have somehow managed to sidestep the system entirely. There has long been speculation about why certain stars fade away just as their careers seem to be taking off, or why some recognizable faces vanish from the social and professional circuits altogether. A veteran industry publicist, offering insight into this phenomenon, explained that some actors and musicians make a deliberate choice to walk away rather than conform to the unspoken rules. These individuals seemingly disappear without a trace. One moment they're the height of visibility, and the next they're completely off the grid. There are no formal announcements, no farewell tours, just silence. The publicist explained that these exits aren't due to a lack of interest or passion, but rather because these stars refuse to surrender more of themselves to the system. Often, these departures are masked by vague explanations such as personal reasons or creative differences, but the timing of their disappearance rarely feels coincidental.
If there's brilliance in that, then I'm appreciative to that, and I'm trying to be a brilliant person, not a brilliant comedian.
And then there are those who dared to fight back. Former insiders have shared chilling stories of individuals who attempted to reveal what goes on behind the scenes, only to face swift and devastating repercussions. The consequences often begin subtly. A few lost roles here, an endorsement deal quietly withdrawn there, until the damage becomes impossible to ignore. Over time, their name and reputation lose value as though they're being systematically erased from the industry. One source likened it to a slow, deliberate takedown that targets every aspect of their career and personal life. The effects are not merely punitive, but serve as a stark warning to others who might consider speaking out. For many, the risk of losing everything, livelihood, reputation, and identity, is enough to ensure their silence. In an environment where the stakes are that high, staying quiet often feels like the only way to survive.
No, I get it. So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head.
And yet, for all the noise, there's a deafening silence from certain quarters. The studios, the agencies, the power players who've been implicated, none have stepped forward to refute the claims or offer any kind of explanation. It's as if they're betting that the story will eventually blow over, that the public's attention will shift to the next scandal. But with Howard and Williams doubling down, and with more voices beginning to join the chorus, that seems increasingly unlikely. The question now isn't whether there's something rotten in Hollywood, it's how deep the rot goes. So what's next? Will the industry finally be forced to confront its darkest secrets? Or will it find a way to silence Howard, Williams, and anyone else brave enough to speak out? And more importantly, how many careers, reputations, and lives will be caught in the crossfire before the truth finally comes to light? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, stay tuned. This story is far from over.